Well, that's the tough part. What can we forgive?
One of the beautiful things about movies is that it teaches us what it is like to be a human. We're able to look into the lives of other people and experience their stories while also being able to relate it to our own. Movies connect people. And the movie that I'm going to be talking about today is all about human connection. There is a concept in cinema called hyperlink cinema, and I'm going to be discussing what that is today by looking at a movie called Magnolia, directed and written by Paul Thomas Anderson. So, you may be wondering, what actually is hyperlink cinema? Hyperlink cinema is a type of movie where different storylines within the same movie intertwine with each other and meet up at different times in the movie. But try not to confuse hyperlink cinema with a different kind of cinema called anthology movies. While anthology movies focuses on having different short films connected together in one story, so you watch one short film, it ends and you move on to the next. Hyperlink cinema actually combines all of those together within one movie. So you might have 3 minutes of one movie moving on to 2 minutes of the next, and it all together feels like one movie as a whole. So some of the movies within the hyperlink cinema genre are Pulp Fiction, Babel, Traffic, and the Norwegian movie called Hawaii Oslo. I watched Hawaii Oslo when I was like 14, 15 years old, and I absolutely loved the movie. And that movie has actually been a huge inspiration for me when working on this video essay. And I heard that Magnolia was a huge inspiration for that movie.
It could be called that, but it was really this line, this first line of her song, Deathly, and it goes, "Now that I've met you, would you object to never seeing me again?" And that was the start of it all, just thinking, that's good, I'm going to steal that, and I'm going to write a movie.
Paul Thomas Anderson was born in San Fernando Valley in California in the United States in 1970. Growing up, he would play around with the cameras at home and make his own movies. And his dad has also been a huge part of the TV and film industry as well, and became a huge inspiration for Paul Thomas Anderson growing up and becoming a filmmaker. Paul Thomas Anderson is very well known for his amazing work on character building. He's able to create really engaging and well-written characters that makes these storylines way more complex and exciting to get into. And even in his movie Magnolia, where we have a lot of different storylines happening all at once, he's still able to create such a good amount of depth to each and every character, so you feel like at the end of the movie, you've had a chance to really get to know all of them. Paul Thomas Anderson finds a lot of beauty in his hometown, and he has used the concept of valley life in a lot of his movies, such as his most recent movie, Licorice Pizza, which focuses on the concept of growing up in a valley. But his movie Magnolia was actually set in his hometown, San Fernando Valley, and it just makes the story a lot closer to himself and his own home. On a day in San Fernando Valley, we meet 9 different characters that are going through huge changes in their lives. Throughout the movie, we get to experience each and every storyline from different perspectives. And as I mentioned, everything is happening on the same exact day. Phil Parma is a nurse trying to help his patient, Earl Partridge, achieve his last dying wish, finding his son. And he's literally trying everything he can, to be able to find the son. Frank T.J. McKay is the son of Earl Partridge. He is leading a seminar to build confidence in men, but turns out he's lying a lot about who he actually is and is very scared to confront his own past. Jimmy Gator is a famous game show host for What Do Kids Know, who has just found out that he's about to die from cancer, and he's trying to reconnect with his daughter. Then we have Stanley Spector, a young boy with the brain of a genius, who's trying to beat the record of the game show What Do Kids Know. And he's also trying his absolute hardest to gain the acceptance from his father. Then we have Earl Partridge. He's the old man on a deathbed with one last wish, which is to find his son. And throughout the story, we figure out that his backstory is not as beautiful and bright as we were hoping for. So then we have Linda Partridge, young wife of Earl Partridge. And now that Earl is dying, she's battling between whether she's happy that he is so she can get all of the money, But she's also sad about the fact that Earl is dying. She's going through quite a lot and she's having a hard time deciding what is the right thing to do. Jim Curring is an officer who has this big dream of being a hero in the eyes of others, but he's realizing that he's just living a very regular, normal life like everyone else. Then we have Claudia Wilson Gator. She is a girl who has stopped interacting with her father and is currently suffering from several mental illnesses and also drug abuse. One day when she meets Jim, she's actually trying to open more up and be more confident with who she is and her life story. At the very end, we have Donnie Smith. He was a genius as a kid and actually holds the record of what the kids know. But now, as an adult, a lot of people have started to forget who he is, and he's actually just trying to figure out how to experience and feel love.
My name is Donnie Smith, and I have lots of love to give.
So as you guys can see, there are a lot of storylines going on here, 9 in total, and I've tried my best to make a little model here for you guys showing how each of these storylines connects. While some of these people have storylines connecting throughout the entire movie, other characters just bump into each other at different times in the movie. But we also have other elements that connect these characters together. And that's the elements I'm going to be talking about today, which includes editing and sound. Why do I want to talk about editing and sound today? Because hyperlink cinema in general can be difficult for people to watch if it's not engaging enough. When there are so many overlapping storylines happening all at once, you might get a little bit confused because there's so much information that you need to remember throughout the movie. So being able to keep up from the beginning to the end can be really difficult, because if you lose track of what's going on, it's going to be really difficult to keep on watching. However, if you have an editor that really appreciates a good tempo of a movie in combination with amazing storytelling skills, well, you are in luck. You have found a really good hyperlink cinema movie. Dylan Tichenor is the editor behind Magnolia, and he has managed to make a 3-hour-long movie not really feel like 3 hours at all. With moments of longer shots but also quick editing, he's able to bring something new to the editing table every single scene. Like, there's always something new and cool about this movie. And I can talk about every single editing part of Magnolia today, but I'm gonna focus on the main thing that makes this such a good movie, which is the transition between the storylines. Because the only way you can make the viewer able to keep up with every single story and to be engaged every single minute is if the editing between the storylines makes sense and are memorable. Because that's going to keep the viewer watching. They're going to be excited about what's going to happen next. This editing style that we see in the introduction also sets the tone for editing throughout the entire movie as well. We are prepared for the fact that here we will be delivered a lot of different storylines, and at some point they will connect with each other. And I think it's a great way because you already give a little heads up to the viewer that they need to keep up with a lot of characters all at once.
Mr. Hansen was the pilot of the plane that quite accidentally lifted Delmer Darien out of the water. Added to this, Mr. Hansen's tortured life met before with Delmer Darien just 2 nights previous.
All I need is a tune. All you need is a deuce.
In the last part of the intro scene, you actually get to see all of the characters being introduced, and they're introduced in such a cool way that you can see some of them running and another characters in the TV in the background. It's such a good way to explain how all of these stories are going to be connected, and it gives you a little bit of each character, so you're curious about what's going to happen next. So another way to transition between the storylines through editing is using clips that have a similar kind of camera movement. There is a scene here where they switch between different shots from different storylines pretty quickly, and each and every single transition uses the same camera movement. And because they use the same camera movement and are edited after each other, it kind of makes sense for our brain that it looks that way, because we think that, oh, but they share something in common, and that's why we can switch between these ones. You know that we're automatically going to be switching through each and every single storyline. Also, one other way that I think is really great to edit between these storylines is just the use of the TV. I think is genius, because you have the TV going on in the background in a lot of these scenes, and then you get to see parts from the different TV shows happening in the movie and the different TV commercials and all of that. So you can just zoom in on the TV and transition into the next scene. You have the choice to just cut to it, but by doing it through the TV, you're like, okay, yeah, you're not actually there in the TV studio filming with them, but they're still there in the background. You get to hear what they're saying, so you still feel like it's, you know, a part of your life. And I think that is so cool. It's a cool way to transition between these storylines, because two storylines can happen at the exact same time just by having something on the TV and something there in the living room. In this movie, they also use music and sound to be able to connect the storylines. They have an ongoing theme going in the background that kind of feels like an ambience that appears every time we're prepared to move on to the next storyline, especially when they're switching between the storylines, they change to this song. It also gives the kind of feeling that each and every single character are going through the same kind of emotion at that time. Whether it's stress, whether it's sadness, whether it's angry, that tone sets the tone for all of the storylines happening at once. And is a really genius way to connect the stories together. Another great example of using music as a transition in this movie is that they used the song Wise Up. Each and every single character, when they're feeling at their lowest, most depressed and sad, they're singing Wise Up.
Going to stop. It's not going to stop. It's not going.
It really sets a nice tone for the film and shows that these characters can be connected even through a song. Maybe they don't even know they're saying the same song, but you probably experienced the same thing. You were thinking of a song, having it on your mind, and then you hear a friend of yours listening to it. It could possibly happen. So the frog scene is what connects all of the characters together at the end of the movie. They're all just going through the most worst feelings in their life. Everything's just so scary, terrifying, and then it starts raining frogs.
Oh, the frogs falling from the sky.
The symbol of frogs from the Bible represents punishment of the people, but it can also be a symbol of either life or regret or trying to change something. So I think this moment shows the change of each and every single character. What I think is also great about this way to connect the characters is that through the sound of the frogs falling on the roof, you don't actually need to show the frogs, but you will still know that, okay, I can hear the sounds of the frogs falling on the roof. It's the same sound that I could hear from the other storyline and that other storyline and that other storyline. It connects all the storylines through the use of editing and through the sound. And one thing that I think is great about this is that when you grow up living in the same town, a very small town, the weather that day is going to be experienced by everyone. Everyone's going to experience sun. Everyone's going to experience a snowstorm. Everyone's going to experience rain. And if it starts raining frogs, then everyone is going to experience that too. So it's a great way to connect all the characters at the end. Even though they're at different parts of town, they still experience the same symbol, which is the frogs falling down. So do I think hyperlink cinema can be a thing in the future? I do think it can be, because we have grown up with watching TV shows. At least my generation has grown up with watching TV shows. And you have TV shows such as Friends, where there are 6 main characters. They don't want one character to be the main one. They want all 6 to feel like they are. And therefore you get to experience 6 different storylines in each and every episode. And because of that, I do think the younger generation will be open to hyperlink cinema as well, because we are so used to seeing different storylines happening at the same time in the format of a TV show. We're so used to it that you just need to work well with the writing and with the editing and with just the flow of the movie for the audience to feel connected to each and every storyline. And I do believe that there are so many good ways to be inspired out there to make something new within this genre.